Hello. Welcome, guys, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the Unstuck podcast, helping creators pursue their passion. I'm your host, as usual, Jamie Harper, and use the hashtag Unstuck podcast if you want to ask any questions about anything. And let's just get right into it. I have got a special guest today. I've been itching to get someone to talk about this topic that we are talking about today. And when I saw her, I've been seeing her posts on Instagram primarily, but she has a presence on other platforms. I was like, let me invite her on, and we've been talking, and yeah, here she is. So let me just do an introduction. She is a business and finance consultant and personal finance coach. She's also an educator, accountant, and entrepreneur, and she's actually very creative. Actually, after reading her profile, let me introduce you to Krystle McGilvery. And yeah, here you are. Feel free to introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yes, hello, Krystle McGilvery, and thank you so much for having me on your show. It's like
Pleasure.
I said, it's seriously an honor. I said it, and I'm going to say it again with so many finance people out there, and I know that everyone brings something different. But yes, thank you for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
You said it right. Yes, I am all about finance education, whether it be personal finance, business finance, as I'm a chartered accountant. I started my journey not too long ago in property investment, so I know a bit about that. And in terms of the finance space, it's number one, it's a real passion of mine. The reason I pursued this route is because of family and what I saw. And my speciality, which I'm sure you've picked up on, is more the psychology behind it. I think many people call it money mindset, but looking at behaviors, its cultural influences, etc. So much so that I'm going to do a master's in September to dig even deeper. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm a charity trustee as well. And I have a finance, a fintech company as well.
Wow. We are going to dive into all of that. Just before we dive into all of the stuff, before we get into everything, there's just a fun little round. There's just a little icebreaker that I've introduced called Hot Shots. And you have to answer. You probably heard this in different podcasts and stuff. It's the first thing that comes to your mind. Yeah. So I'm just going to ask you these questions. So, what was the last book you read?
I can see it. I was reading it, How Not to Be Wrong. I think.
How Not to Be Wrong. Yes. That sounds interesting. What's the book about?
It's mathematics. Oh, damn it. It's about maths and thinking and behavior, and yeah, it's really nerdy. Oh, damn it.
Ain't no shame in your game.
Yeah.
I wish I could read the maths book. I couldn't do it because maths is not my strong suit. But
I wish that wasn't a math book.
What? But it's what you love, so can't fault you for it. Cool. If you could have a meal with anyone, living or dead, who would it be?
Tracy Ellis Ross.
Ooh.
I really like her.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you like about her?
I think she did a lot for me personally. So this is where it's non-finance chat in terms of me coming into my own. I remember an interview she did with Oprah Winfrey. I mean, there's lots of other things she's done that's inspired me, but one just talking about being you, being authentic. There's only one you, you're amazing. That kind of chat did a lot for me, and I think she's wonderful. And then you mentioned being creative. I'm also a little bit kooky, and she's amazing. I'm like, oh my god, I can be both. I don't know. Obviously, I'm sure everyone's aware when it comes to the finance space, everyone's pretty grey, L7 and square and whatever. I'm not. I draw. I dance like a buffoon, and I've always hid that. So it's nice that actually, Chris, go for it.
Oh wow, yeah, that's something that because when I was reading your I'm gonna get into it. Let me get right. Okay. I'm just itching to ask you these questions because they're very fun questions. Tracy Ellis Ross, cool, very good answer because I like her too. Good. She's I was watching her on Blackish and recently Girlfriends.
Yep.
I had never watched Girlfriends before lockdown. I didn't even know about it. It existed, and I watched it. I was watching it with my girlfriend. I was like, oh, this is actually quite good.
Yeah.
Another one. Do you have any hidden talents that people aren't aware of?
Hidden talents. I was having this conversation the other day. What did I come up with? Oh, I mean, maybe the drawing. Is that hidden?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hidden talent. Me as an accountant, usually you're not meant to be creative if you're good at maths. Yeah, I can draw.
Okay.
Yeah. I can illustrate, yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And what's your favorite cake? If you like cake. You might not like cake.
I'm not a sweet person at all, but I'm sure there is a cake that I do like. Is this a cake? Yeah, it's a cake. Jam turnover.
Jam turnover.
Have you heard of apple turnover?
Yes.
It's basically
So,
jam. It's the best thing ever. Oh
oh
my
my
god.
god, that sounds like paradise to me.
Oh,
Because I love I love jam.
it's amazing. And yeah, anyway, let's not go on a tangent. Yeah, that is,
I
guys,
could
please
talk
send me a
I could
gift.
talk about food all day. Like this could be a food podcast very easily.
And
Because
I haven't eaten, so let's not do that.
oh my god. Okay, better get this done so you can get some food. Cool. So that was the hot shots round, just to get some of your personality out, and like you hit on some really key stuff there that I would like to unpack. But let's first off dive into like your background and how you got into it. So what is like a personal finance coach, and how did you get into the world of finance and everything that you're doing now? Just give us a little like rundown of your background.
Okay, so like I'm sure many of us, single parent home, dad wasn't around, mum was working, she is still self-employed beauty, she does hair, so she's got a hair salon and all that good stuff.
Oh,
So I was at home, kind of, I was like mum number two. So I was always the responsible one, and I think throughout my whole, childhood, teenage, blah blah blah, I was a responsible one. I did what mum told me,
mm.
basically. This runs through up until years back when I was like, nah, 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 let's be Krystle. So I did what I was told, and I studied maths at university because I was good, although I wanted to be an actress. Um, I was like, Mum, what should I do? Drama or maths? Obviously, Mum's going to say maths, right?
Bring home the money.
Right? Well, actually, yeah, anyway. Then I guess because of the people around me not knowing much about what to do with your career and stuff, I just fell
Mhm.
into accountancy. Um, yeah, sure, there were career fairs, but I wasn't that much of an engaged young lady. So I
Mm.
just fell into accountancy. And then I think, I don't know where along the way, I kind of switched on a bit. I was like, let me study for accountancy, let me become qualified, let me be a management consultant. I didn't become one. I worked within, private companies, being one of two black people, in a big company, which is common.
Mm.
At the same time, I was teaching maths privately, and I had been since I started university. So I'm working in these offices with these, you know, all white C-suite.
Mm.
I'm not comfortable being myself. Typical story. I'm sure you've heard it before.
Yeah.
I'm very quiet behind my Excel spreadsheet. Just okay, hi, yeah. Whereas at home, I'm this buffoon. I'm an idiot. I'm a clown. I'm big personality. And I think what happened is, whilst I was still in the community and doing my thing, teaching, educating, etc., and seeing my family, I'm like, there's a massive difference in personal finance, money, what people know. And I think I had a series of bad bosses,
Mm.
and I just quit it all. Went traveling for a year and a half.
Wow.
Mum was freaking out. Krystle, you're on a great salary. What are you doing? Don't quit that. And I know I've read about all this. It's common in African Caribbean communities. You don't
Yeah.
do that. And then, as I'd been talking about for many years, I had this itch about personal finance and just educating my people effectively on this topic. And I'd been helping friends and family anyway. So I came back from travel, year and a half, Asia, Africa.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, I've been planning for a while, whilst I've been out traveling, I'm going to do it. So no, I came back and applied for a job. I tried to get a full-time job. So I just got
Mm.
cold feet. And I didn't get any of them. All of them said no. And that had never happened before. But in the past,
Oh.
I'd go for like 2-3 interviews and I'd have job offers. I went for about 16 and they all said no.
Wow. What was that like? Like, what did that do to you, like, in terms of your confidence, and
It
like, how did that
didn't.
help you? Did it?
It didn't because I didn't want it. That's why they didn't.
Ah,
So
that's the
inside,
key.
I was like, Oh yeah, like literally, I'll be sat there at the interview, and I don't know if this is going on YouTube, but I'll be sat there at the interview, like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
Mm.
I've been doing that for 10 years. Yeah, it's fine. So there's no drive, fire, urgency to impress. I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
Wow.
Um, so that was in January 2020, and then we had pandemic.
Yeah.
So then I was like, Krystle, just chuck yourself on Instagram. Just go and share with people what you've been sharing with your friends and family, and the little workshops I'd done. And I don't know if you've ever scrolled down to the bottom of my Instagram, but
Hmm.
you'll see that my face does not exist for a long time.
Yeah,
Uh,
I remember.
so that's when, back to, like I said, how I was back in the workplace behind the Excel spreadsheet. That's what I kind of, somehow put on Instagram. And then as time went by, I got more confident with it. And since then, I've done a bunch of stuff in this space,
Wow.
which, and launched a separate business, which I've been speaking to my business partner about for about 5 years. He's been trying to get me on it. So now I'm basically fully living in my truth of doing what I truly care about, which is I've got my art page,
Mm.
and I'm going to maybe push that, and I've got my finance stuff. So yeah, I'm doing it
Wow.
for the people, and initially my family, and people like that.
Wow. That's really like brilliant. Well done for taking the step, because a lot of people are too scared to take that step, because
Oh,
we're the kind of narrative is that, um if you don't have a job, you're not going to eat. And
yeah.
if someone's not paying you in a 9 to 5, you
Mhm.
can't eat. How are you supposed to survive? But people forget that those people that are paying you are are the ones that took that job. You see
Yeah.
what I mean? Why can't you be with one of those people? And you mentioned like growing up, like in an African Caribbean household, it's quite hard to make that jump. What was the like? You said like mentioned your mom, but like, did you get any support from friends and family? Were they kind of pushing you to do that, or as well?
So I think I've got two older sisters. Well, yeah, I've got two older sisters. I've got lots of siblings, but two older sisters. They're older, they're married, kids, they've done that whole journey thing, and it was them who pushed me to travel. And
Wow.
I wanted to just go to India at first and just have a
Hmm.
break for like 4 weeks. They're like, Krystle, you've got money, just go and travel. You've got your qualification, you can come back and jump in if you want to.
Hmm.
And that's why it turned from 1 month into 15 months or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So that's where the encouragement came from. But mother, no, mum, no, no. That was a problem for a long time. And I had the fear as well, because
Yeah.
of my immediate household had shown me that that's a scary, risky, don't do it thing
Yeah.
to do. So I
Yeah.
had that. I had taken it on fully. But then when I made the change, it was like, oh, hella uncomfortable. I was a
Mm.
mess for a good few months.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And as well, I made the decision and actually went traveling about 3 months later. So there was no real massive planning or saving. I just took what I had and went,
Mm.
which is, yeah.
Wow, well done though. Like, that is really like inspiring, because there's a lot of people that want to do what you did.
Yeah.
And what would you say about like your relationship to risk? Um, where and your relationship to failure as well, because our relationship with failure kind of um can have a massive effect on our decisions, and when we want to get the things that are truly what that we feel that we deserve, our relationship with failure and risk can deter us from doing that, and it kind of slows us down, or we never pursue these things that we did. So in terms of you like growing up and in your career and with your traveling and everything, how was your relationship to fear and risk? And what has that always been a issue, or has it ever been an issue? And if so, how do you manage that?
So first of all, I don't know what we'd call it, pre my new life.
Yeah.
That you have two lives, and the second life starts once you realize. I can't remember. I'm not very good at quoting this stuff, but I would like.
I get you.
Yeah, big time. Before I went about making this change, which was scary, I was
Mm.
riddled with fear. Like I said, I described myself as this person who hid behind a screen to make sure that my bosses accepted me and kept me in the job. And
Yeah.
you know, it, yeah, it was all very uncomfortable.
Mm.
Uncomfortable. So much so that before I went traveling, I was itching. Like I've been in personal finance for a long time, right? We're talking years and years, and I'd been like, there's this part of me that wants to go into events and workshops and help people. And I put on a couple. And I remember I was meant to speak at an event and I cancelled last minute. And so many things
Mm.
happened that were riddled with my fear. And I stopped, and it was a massive blockage, a massive wall. So much so that I sought a coach to help me get over that barrier. And
Wow.
actually, what happened is she was like, this is funny. She was like, how? She's a therapist and a coach, and she was like, well, how about we start with therapy first? I was like,
Wow.
oh, you're telling me I need therapy?
Hey.
Okay. Which I truly believe everybody does, but
Yeah.
that coupled with the travel helped me get out of the fear.
Wow.
And 100%, those two things are massive life changing things, and they both
Mm.
happen kind of at the same time. But in terms of now, when it comes to fear, like I went through this transitional process of fear exists, like it sits there on my shoulder, sure,
Mm.
especially when I'm trying something new or whatever. And it's like, it's funny because I remember hearing other people talk about it in this way, that fear exists, but you just keep going with it sitting there. And
Mm.
it sounded like, yeah, sure, that sounds great, what you're talking about. But it is a place that you get to, and you only get there by trying things, failing at them, and not dying.
Mm.
Like, oh, okay, I'm okay. It's
Yeah.
embarrassing or it hurt, but I will survive.
Yeah. You're still there. You're still here. You know.
Yeah, which you're right, it's coupled very closely with risk, because that requires you to take a risk and not be in your comfort zone, which doesn't bring about any change for that thing you want to get to. You have to go through change, which is scary, which is uncomfortable, which is risky. And
Mm.
if we dig into the psychology of it, it's your brain doing what it's supposed to do, which is
Yeah.
protecting you.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard there's an acronym: false evidence appearing real.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what fear is. So we make up these things in our head. Like I think I read a book,
Hmm.
and they said that um they're talking about anxiety,
Yeah.
and they're saying anxiety is like the bear with the flamethrower. The thought of the grizzly bear with the flamethrower is
Mm.
it's ridiculous. It's like this doesn't exist. Like it's very unlikely that you're gonna meet a grizzly bear with a flamethrower that's trying to kill you.
Yeah.
You just make up in their head, but it sounds like a scary thing because I don't want to meet a grizzly bear with a flamethrower.
Well,
Like I
you don't, but do you know what I like? I like when people articulate it in such a way of, it's all about being in the present, being in the now,
yeah.
because anxiety is fear of the future, and
Hmm.
regret fear of the past. It's all like, forget that, be
Wow.
where you are now, do what you're doing now, and just keep walking forward one step at a time. Forget about what may go wrong, because you're just
Mm,
living in the past. And then what happens? You're
that's
going to
it.
live it twice when you get there and it does go wrong.
Mm,
That really helps you check it back, like, okay, right, yeah, I'm panicking
hmm.
about something that's not happened, and I'm going to be continuously panicking because tomorrow is never going to be today.
Yeah. That's it. There's also a thing called fear setting by Tim Ferriss. Um it's like they do goal setting, but what people really are held back are not necessarily by their goals, but it's by their fear of making decisions. So he does is that it makes you ask
Mhm.
yourself, what is the worst case scenario?
Yeah.
Okay, worst case scenario, I might not have money. Okay, you can resolve that by getting a job.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Because when I money, there are so, and obviously me being a finance person, there are so many ways to make money.
Mm,
But a lot of us don't know about it and think,
that's it.
it's riddled with fears and phobias of money, which hinders.
Yeah.
But that's all education, right?
Yeah. Um, I'm gonna get onto the kind of financial parts as well, but I want to unpack a bit more about
Cool.
your creativity. So you
Okay.
mentioned that you wanted to be an actor,
Yeah.
and that you have an art side of you as well. There's that side of you, and these two things. When you think finance and creativity, people don't feel like they mesh. Because
Yeah.
I've spoken to a lot of people that are like accountants or they do things that they don't feel is creative, and they're
Yeah.
like, I'm not creative. I wish I could draw.
Yeah.
You know, all I do is maths, and I'm just like, I wish I could do maths.
Yeah.
Do you know how creative maths is?
Yeah.
You know, have you heard of the Fibonacci sequence? Like
Yeah.
that is mathematics.
Hmm.
Like that stuff is creative. So,
Yeah.
like for you, how did you was there any kind of conflict when it came to pursuing pursuing like your career in like finance and how do you balance the two, your creativity, and where does creativity come in when it comes to doing what you do as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think I was drawing in school. I remember being sat by this girl. I can't remember her name, but we used to sit in our class, and we were like the good drawers in the class.
Yeah.
So I've been drawing for a while. I stopped for like 15 years, sure. and I picked it up maybe 10 years ago or something like that. I feel like I'm disclosing my age. I'm sure everyone can find now, but yeah, so I've always kind of drawn in the background. For a long time, it was very private and personal. Nobody saw it. Uh, and I think, I don't know, I think, as you know, with anything, as you practice, you get better and better. And I
Yeah.
was like, actually, it showed the odd boyfriend in the past. They're like, oh, it's quite good.
Mm.
Yeah, there was like, oh, it's quite good. So I've always kept it in the background. And you're right, there is a persona or a belief that you can't be both. And I totally don't believe that. I mean, not just because I am not that, but I just don't believe it. I fully, wholly accept that we are all, number one, creative beings. It's
That's it.
purely a matter of practiced your to perfection, or you've just gone through it for many hours to make it something, you focused on it, then you become an expert in that field, like with anything. And a lot of people, I think, are creative, but they don't identify it as creative. With all the things that I do, whether it's, I design my own website, I completely change it myself. That's creative. I
Mm.
draw, or even the programs I create. If we forget actual drawing, the programs I create, my coaching programs, requires creativity. To
Yeah.
think through and plan it out. And lots of people do that, especially accountants. It's a real thing. But I think because the image out there is that you can't be both, that a bit like with maths, there's the thought that everyone, maths is really hard. So lots of people just assume it is and don't even go forward.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if anything, if I'm giving out a message that actually you can be both, then I'm glad. Hopefully that will encourage people to explore it, be creative. It's fun.
Yeah. Exploring that kind of the thing is that you don't need to be necessarily great at something either. Like
No,
you just need to be curious.
exactly.
I might
Allow it
one
to flow.
one day I might be like, I'm the sort of person that, like, if I find something interesting on Pinterest, I'm gonna try and make it.
Yeah.
If someone puts a jam recipe, I'm like, I'm gonna find out how to make jam. Like, I'm gonna make
Easy.
jam, and I tried it once and it went very badly, but I tried it. you know.
I've not tried it, so I say that, but I've not tried it.
I think I just used the wrong ingredients because I ran out of sugar and I tried
Oh,
to use
yeah.
icing sugar. It just did not work. But I tried. So, but a lot of people are scared of trying. They're scared of saying, they're like, oh, drawing. Like, I want to start drawing. Or one I hear a lot is I want to start playing the keyboard because I play the keyboard. So a lot of people come to me and do you play as well? Or
No, I tried to start again, and no.
oh, you're one of those.
I just didn't give it time.
See, that's the thing. So a lot of people come to me and they're like, "Oh, I want to learn the keyboard." And I'm just like, "Okay, get a keyboard and start playing
Yeah,
it.
press some keys.
Go on YouTube, press some keys." That's it. If Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles could learn the keyboard and piano, you ain't got no excuse. So you see, it's like, well, we're so scared of being bad at something, but
Yes,
you have to be bad first before you're good.
you do. And
You know?
I guess with the whole increase of social, and I mean, at the same time, you get to choose what you put out there, but there's just this fear of judgment, right? Fear of
Yeah.
you being bad. And actually, I'm checking myself every other day, like, Chris, don't forget, it doesn't matter what people think, what others are doing, do you? And if anything,
Hmm.
that makes you more unique because you're just doing you. So yeah, I think that's a big thing.
That's huge. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna get onto the next like kind of stuff. Talk about finance, and because this whole thing is about helping creatives pursue their passion and giving them like practical tips. But what I want to ask you is we'll touch on like business, finance, and then personal finance in two different sections. So when it comes to business finance, what do you feel are like the common like financial mistakes that especially entrepreneurs make or businesses make? What do you think like are those the kind of mistakes that they tend to make, the top mistakes, financial mistakes? I just waffled there, but you get what I'm saying.
That's okay. Yeah, definitely. There are some. The first one, I think, uh, it's a big one. It's not paying attention to their cash flow.
Oh.
And for a lot of people, it's something they've never considered before, never even knew was a thing. But it's almost more important than profit. Profit, obviously, income, expenses, etc. Cash flow is about ensuring you have enough money in the bank to pay the bills that are about to come out. make sure there's enough money to pay any bills, whether it's suppliers or maintain your own lifestyle, if it's just that for now.
Mm.
If you don't pay attention to it and you've got money coming out, money going in, you're not sure when things are happening, it's very easy for you to either go into the overdraft or just things to bounce. And lots of businesses fail simply because of that. You may be profitable, but if your cash flow is not managed, you can go bust.
Wow. That sounds scary.
Let's make it more positive. So in terms of like looking at your cash flow, it's not even a complicated thing. It's not a big, massive, crazy scientific calculation. It's literally being aware of when you're getting paid and when you have to pay out things. And if you
Right.
can use an overdraft, for example, to act as a buffer, but it's just that attention that needs to be paid to it. And I think just a lot of people don't pay attention to that. And I think as you grow and get bigger as a business, and maybe your orders get bigger, and maybe you're able to supply to more customers or whatever it may be, if you're not paying attention to that, it's easy for you to then have to go and use a credit card, which then incurs
Right.
interest. And you get into that kind of little cycle, and that's how debt builds up.
Yeah.
And to safeguard that is just to pay attention to your cash flow as one top
Mm.
area.
Wow.
You
Yeah.
ever thought of that?
And sorry?
Have you ever thought of that?
Um, yes. One of my things is that I'm very big on one passive income.
Mhm.
It's not an area that I've mastered yet, but it is an area that I would like to
Yeah.
master, and it means that there's always cash flow coming in. So whether it's like releasing a digital product or writing a book or like doing like video tutorials online and stuff, or releasing like merch and stuff like that, it's just
Yeah.
cash flow that will keep coming in and
Yeah.
I make money while I sleep pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And that's very hard to do. Like there's a myth that, passive income is really easy. It is not easy. It's just hard. It's hard work. But when you lay the foundations, you see the rewards. But
It's a
you have to think outside the box. It's not always about thinking. Okay, you don't always have to do. Okay, for example, by trade, I am a designer by trade, but I can make more money
Mhm.
doing things to help. For example, to help other designers. That would be
Right. Yeah.
creating products for those kind of people.
Yeah.
So that will kind of help me with my cash flow, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. That's how I see it anyway.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's the services that I provide as well. So that's especially recently during lockdown because I last week paid off my credit card. Yay. Yeah, I paid off my credit card after I just said after a year of putting money in. And I was like, you know what?
Money.
Now's the time to do it. I'm not traveling to work.
Yeah.
And we're in lockdown. I don't have many financial commitments.
Mhm.
Now is the time to pay it off, and I did everything I could to pay it off. And that was, but to do it, I had to increase my cash flow because I
Yeah.
also believe when it comes to saving, it's not just about putting money on the side; it's about making more money. That's also how to save.
Yeah.
So I just thought, okay, how can I make more money? And I just started doing loads of side gigs,
Amazing.
and thankfully, that's how I paid it off.
Can I just confirm you haven't closed down the credit card though?
Sorry?
You haven't closed down the credit card account?
No, I haven't. No, because I still want to use it to build my credit rating. So, I know that at least there is a temptation for me to cut it in half, but I will not do that.
Understandable because things like that is emotional, right? You've had
Yeah.
it's a debt, you're paying dead money effectively because something
Mm.
you've already used or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I'm free. Bye, cut up. Hold on,
Yeah.
cancel. And it's like, no, that's a great account. It's got records of your good payments. So
Exactly.
good. I'm glad.
Yay. What would you say? We're talking about credit cards from a business perspective. Like, what is a credit card for those that don't know? What is a credit card useful for? Because there's a lot of people, especially in the Black community, a lot of people actually a lot of people don't even have credit cards because
Yeah.
there's this kind of stigma like credit card debt being a bad thing. So when you're running a business, like what can a credit card do for you?
I mean, especially if you're, a new business or a small business, or maybe you've not registered the company or whatever, especially in those early days where timings or you're a bit more sensitive to fluctuations in your cash. Credit cards are useful because you can pay them off a month later. So they're best used when you are in control of your finances. So you
Hmm.
know that money is going to come in 3 weeks time, so you can pay for something now with a credit card and use that money that's coming to pay it off a week later. That kind of timing gives you a bit of breathing space, and that's where it's really useful on the business side. But like I said, I'm going to say it again to stress the point: you need to be managing your money to make sure that you can pay that. Um, because you don't want to be in a cycle. So a lot of the people that I work with that come to me are trapped in the cycle of using their credit card to survive because they haven't got any money in their bank because they're paying their bills, and that's you get quite trapped. But in terms of the positives on the personal side, yeah, you mentioned it earlier, building your credit, having that account on your profile to show that you are paying your bills on time and in full, just maintaining that activity, because then other lenders will, see that data and then be more willing to lend to you later.
Mm.
Say you want to buy a home later, for example, having that long-standing account will do wonders for you. Um, yeah. But
Yeah.
totally, and I'm thinking of one person in particular. I was working with her and her mother, and yeah, the thought of having a credit card because of past experiences, it was like, oh, I don't want to have one again.
Mm.
But it's like,
Yeah.
it's not bad.
Yeah. It's seen as a bad thing, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to like TV. I remember I was watching when I was little. I watched there's loads of different episodes, like all these like black comedies, like
Mm.
that we used to watch, like Sister Sister, One on One, and all that kind of stuff. There will always be an episode where the kid finds their parents' credit card and goes on a shopping spree, and they spend all this money, and because they think
Oh,
it's free money,
absolutely.
uh, and then they get in a lot of trouble. So seeing stuff like that, for me, I got a credit card. When did I get a credit card? Pretty late, pretty
Mm.
late, but I did it because I had to buy some new stuff.
Mhm.
My problem is that I did not have a plan to pay it off.
Okay.
So that's why I was in debt for so long, because
Okay.
I was paying it off little by little, but I didn't have a plan. I was like, oh, if I pay little by little, but eventually it'll get paid off. But the
Mm.
problem is I
No.
didn't have enough cash flow to pay it
Yeah.
off.
And I think another point, and I don't know if this is what you're saying you did just there. It's debt, and debt can be leveraged to your
Yeah.
advantage. So, I'm assuming here, but maybe if you were buying something for your business, which you can then use to make money and monetize, then actually that investment
Yeah.
uh, that's what it is. And
Yeah.
that could be a good thing, And I know lots of people, especially back in the day and when things were a bit cheaper, would use their credit cards to buy property.
Yeah.
Um,
Heard about that.
which makes sense. Why not?
Yeah. Mm.
But again, you just have to know what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
before you
That sounds insane to me though. Like
know.
how it makes sense in my head, but because of like my relationship with debt,
Mm.
hearing someone buy property on a credit card sounds absolutely crazy to me. Every time someone hears it, like, are you nuts? Are you insane? But it's working for some people.
It is. It is, and it just really comes down to timing and just knowing what you're doing, knowing how much interest you're going to pay.
Mm,
How long it's going to take to get the money back from the investment. Taking the money out. Yeah, yeah.
mm. I wanted to touch on wealth.
Hmm.
So, wealth. How would you? Because you talk a lot about wealth on your especially on your Instagram. Um, like when it comes to um interesting question. Is there a difference between being rich and being wealthy?
I think so. Rich could be just a lot of money. Wealth,
Mm,
when I think of wealth, I think of money being made without your interaction.
right.
So kind of what we're talking about in terms of passive, it's just
Mm,
money taking over, money's coming in, whatever means you have to generate an income, whether it's stocks and
mm.
shares, pension fund, property, um, wealth that you can just sit and do what I want to do, which is be on a beach in Bali. Have that having sitting there. So I think so.
Mm. Okay, cool. That's what I believe as well. I believe wealth is more it's not necessarily the money, but
Mm,
it is the value of the things that you have.
yeah,
So you might not have a lot of cash, but you can have some things that are worth a lot of money. So if
exactly.
you invest in stocks, that's a
Hmm.
form of wealth. Or if you buy property, that's a form of wealth.
Yeah.
I hear about like a lot of like musicians and actors who don't actually have a lot of physical cash, but because they
Mhm.
have a lot of endorsements, they make a living from that. So they are wealthy in that sense.
Yeah.
I remember when 50 Cent, he had to file for bankruptcy and people were like, oh, 50 Cent is broke. But it's like, no, he's not broke.
Yeah.
You know, he still has a lot of wealth. That was
Mm.
just a business decision, you know? So I feel like, um, especially online, there's a lot of people that are pursuing wealth. And I think it's very important to differentiate the difference between being rich and being wealthy because they are two different things. I think it's fine if you want to make a lot of physical cash. That's absolutely fine. That's
Yeah,
absolutely
I
fine.
mean, it doesn't really do much for the future, especially with
Mm,
inflation, time value
yeah.
of money. It's not about having cash, it's about having
Mm,
assets that produce cash to pay for your living.
mm,
I don't know if you know Jack's Financials, but he's great. And he did a post the other day talking about just that, the stocks and shares that he has, paying a dividend, using that dividend money to buy more, and that continues to
yeah.
pay dividends, which is going to be bigger because, it's the whole compounding. And that's where I think we need to get to, as
Mm,
opposed to just getting that cash and spending it and then what?
mm. I think we're moving on to the like personal stuff now, which is great because that's where I wanted to move on to because we're talking about our relationship and the mindset. You said there's a lot about the mindset
Mm-hmm.
behind, you know, finance, and there's something that you covered recently called your money story.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about? And can you give a like explanation about that?
Yeah, so money story goes back to, so if we start at the beginning, which is the decisions you make when it comes to your finances is laced and riddled with emotion
Mm,
and habits and things that you may not even be aware of. So, sorry, like with anything in your life, the way you act, the things you like, the person you're attracted to is a result of what you
mm,
think and feel, and what's been embedded with you from society, from your peers, from your parents, and these are all sitting within your subconscious. You're not aware of them. So the same applies to your money and what you do with your money. And not many people think about it that way.
mm,
Um, and that's, as you can see, is like a really key area of mine. So in terms of your money story, it's about unpicking and thinking back through your life and trying to see what has impacted how you think and feel about money. And that takes some time for you to sit and think, okay, with my dad, what was he like? What was my mum like? What happened at university? Did I have a bad experience?
mm.
How do I look at jobs? What does a job mean to me? Like what we spoke about earlier, the thought of, for some people, the thought of quitting a 9 to 5 is like, I can't do that. How would I live? You
Yeah.
know, and the affiliation of money there. Unpicking all that really helps you understand what your money story has been through your life to get you to where you are today. And when I do this with people, what I find is a lot of it brings about aha moments because it's like, oh, that makes sense. I remember there was one guy I was talking to in particular. He was saying that when a lot of his money goes towards spending when he goes out partying or whatever, he likes to be the guy that buys everyone a drink. So he spends way more than he plans to. Like he goes out with a plan and he spends way more. And then he's always upset about it. And I was like, okay, so why are you spending all this money? He's like, because I want everyone to have a good time. I want everyone to be happy. And I'm like, okay,
Oh,
nice. But
it sounds nice.
sounds nice. But one, do you think you're in control of other people's happiness?
Hmm.
Two, is it somewhat egotistical for you to want to be in control or you to be the one to make others happy? Why do you want that power?
Ooh.
Right? So a lot of
Deep.
this goes, I know, it's a lot. It's a lot. There's
Okay. Oh, my heart.
it's hard. And a lot of it, for most of us, there's some kind of really deep crux, something there. And he thought back to his dad, and his dad was the same way. And
Mm,
it's common. We do things that are a result of what we've seen someone do. We don't even realize it. But the reason I tap into that is because a lot of it, one frees up the individual from thinking they're just bad at money, right? So he
yeah.
just thought he's bad at money. He can't seem to save like he wants to. But then in the surface thought is, yeah, but I'm spending this money because I want everyone to be happy. Okay, dig a bit deeper. When you dig a bit deeper, then you realize, then you can make the decision. Actually, I'm not doing that anymore. And it's easier to make a decision because you're like, actually, that's what was at play. It wasn't my conscious
Mm,
mind. It was actually something that I wasn't aware of. I wasn't in control of. And I think that's where the shift comes. Because
yeah.
people realize that actually there's a part of my brain acting without me being mindful of it. And then it kind of frees you to not thinking that you're just stupid at money, which a lot of people do think.
Mm,
And then yeah, and then then you can start turning around and thinking about your habits and setting up things to stop you from doing X, Y, Z. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It must help with like your relationship with money, because like I know for me, my relationship with money is more of a thing of, okay, I'm more afraid to spend, or
Mm.
when it comes to buying stuff for myself,
Mhm.
I'm afraid to do that. But I would sooner buy buy something for someone else because I don't feel like attached to that thing. Um um Whereas when it comes to buying stuff for myself, I'm like, well, am I spending too much money? So it's a habit I'm trying to break out of in terms of
Mm.
my relationship with money. I'm like, why don't you feel like you deserve this kind of nice thing? So
Yeah.
like at the end of the month, I'm buying myself a new camera.
Yeah,
Like
yes,
I'm
love
like,
it.
yeah, fine, let me do it, because I growing up, I never really the only thing I spent money on was video games growing up, really. But I never really spent money on clothes or like gadgets, stuff like
What
that.
were your
So
parents like? What do they do?
my parents, growing up, my dad was see, now there's a story, yeah. I think my dad was a spy. Do you know why? Because there's a joke that goes around with me and my one of my best friends that we felt like our parents were spies,
Okay.
because I never knew what my dad did, but I knew he was like always like traveling.
It's so funny. I've heard this before. Yeah, it's a thing. A lot of families, especially black families.
Yeah, I'm like, Dad, what do you? Oh, I'm a businessman. I was like, what do you do?
Yeah, okay.
So my dad was, let's just say he was a business person. He's very business minded. So he's always looking for the like new
Mhm,
ideas and new ways to make money, and that's
mhm,
what I get that a lot from him as well. Whereas um, my mom is a caterer.
mhm.
She's very good with cooking and stuff like that. But they're both very creative. But growing up, like it was a sort of thing where I'm not sure how. I think I need to do this whole money story thing because I need to understand how my upbringing.
Okay, so what did they do?
Yeah,
Were they frivolous with it? With what
no,
give
no,
you
they weren't.
money?
They weren't.
Could you get money from them at any point? Were you allowed to just buy whatever you wanted, or was it
No,
always no,
no,
you
no.
have to go and
So
treat?
the sorry, mom, but the narrative, yeah, is was that like there's not enough. That was like the thing that the story that we kept on hearing in the household was that there's not enough money.
Yeah.
You know, even growing up now, I talk to my brother about it sometimes, and we're like, is there really no money, or
Yeah.
is it just, is this just the language that you use to
Mhm.
just not
Keep you away.
like, I'm not saying we were rich or anything, we weren't, but like when we go back to Nigeria to visit and stuff, it's like, wow, we don't have any. My dad doesn't say we don't have money. My mom would say, we don't have money. But then the next thing you know, my dad is just like, yeah, here's a wad of cash. And I'm like,
I thought you didn't have money.
I thought there was no money.
And you know what? It's funny because one, they say there isn't any money. It doesn't necessarily mean there wasn't any money, but it's that
Yeah.
communication piece. And I was talking to, I had a quick chat. Was it with someone on Instagram? I was talking about just that. You have to communicate with your children because if not, what children do is they make up their own story.
Hmm.
So if your parents are telling you, no, there isn't any money, you're going to think that, okay, I can't spend, there's never anything, I can't buy the nice thing I want to buy for myself, or, whether me and my friends want to both buy the same pair of matching trainers, whatever it may be, it's actually, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that. So you're going to
Hmm.
go into adulthood thinking that that's not what you do because that's what you've been trained. But actually, like you said, your parents may have been okay financially, so the communication part, I think, is so important.
Yeah.
Whether you are wealthy or not, I think communicating the value of money, what it does, what it brings, what it doesn't bring, it's just so important because that is
Yeah.
what builds your money story as an adult. So
Hmm.
you maybe right now, like you said, you're not spending on yourself because you didn't as a kid. It wasn't a
Yeah.
thing. It wasn't like, hey, let's treat ourselves, or there
Yeah.
wasn't an allocated pot to have fun or anything like that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's very interesting to look back on that. And even
Mm,
that, like taking it into my business as well.
yeah.
Like I'm here trying to run a podcast and create really good content and stuff like that. And I need to spend money to do that. So I had to learn what an investment was. I think that's the main thing I learned from Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Hmm.
Like that book, it goes off on a tangent like the second half, but the first half is very good.
Yeah.
Where he talks about what is an asset and what is
Liability.
a liability. And
Mhm.
that was the first time I had heard that before, because he said something along the lines of, if you buy a car, that car could be a liability,
Mhm.
not an asset, but a if you invest in something, that could be an asset. So for me, I had to learn what an asset was. For me, buying the equipment I'm using now, the microphone, the webcam, and all that kind of stuff, those are assets because they could
100%.
potentially lead to me making more money. And it's something that I need. But something that is a liability, I literally had to make a spreadsheet
Mhm.
of everything that comes out of my account.
Yeah.
And I have like three colors. I have red, which is like, you don't need this,
Yeah.
amber, which is nice to have, and green is what I need.
Yeah.
So, and I can add up the stuff that I need and, all that kind of stuff.
And
So I had to learn what was a liability and to cut out all my liabilities because I wanted to pay off my credit card.
yeah, you do. And I think that learning is so important because when you start thinking about purchases and spend where you spend your money in that way, it helps you refocus that actually if I spend on that, I could make some more money, you
That's
know.
it.
And again, another client of mine, got a wad of cash and spent quite a portion of it, but actually invested in something for her business. And I was like, excellent. And that was quite a new thing for her to do.
Yeah.
The fact that that asset or that physical machine will go about bringing her income tomorrow is the formula. That's what you need. Um,
Yeah. But like, how do you feel about the attitude? I always talk about this when I have guests on because I am very big on getting paid.
mhm.
Like, you probably see that on my Instagram. I'm always talking about getting paid.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel about the attitude of not charging what you are worth? Because we're talking about cash flow here. We're talking about always having the money coming in. But how can you have the money that's like
What do you think?
enough money coming in if you don't charge your worth and get what you need? So how do you feel about that kind of mindset?
So, if you're talking about hypothetically, there's a job that someone does and they're freelancing or
Yeah.
whatever, and the market average is a set rate, and what this person is really undercharging. Are you talking about that kind of scenario?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a combination of things, and it's funny. I was talking to my sister about this as well, and she does some stuff, and there's two ways. It's either one, you're right at the beginning of your game and
Mm,
you don't know what you're doing, and actually you're kind of testing the market. You're trying to give out freebies just to get yourself out there
yeah.
and see
Yeah.
if you're comfortable. And I remember talking to someone else about this the other day, and I think she's doing actually free sessions. And I was like, okay, yeah, how many are you doing? And she was like, I was just going to do them. No, 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 darling. You do them for a set period, and then
I
because
know.
that point is when that's you being uncomfortable because you're going through change, you're doing something different, you're now charging for a different service that you're offering, you're not in a 9 to 5, you haven't agreed your salary for the whole year fixed, you're now in
Mm,
control of how much money you can make, and that's scary. That's almost like pricing you. And I
mm,
think the reason why people undercharge is because they're not confident in people being willing to pay you. Now, if
hmm.
you're not coming out as confident, people aren't going to take you in as confident, so they're less
That's it.
likely to pay you. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing
Mm.
where and I don't know if I agree? I don't know if I agree with the fake it till you make it.
Nah, I don't agree with it.
Yeah, I don't think I do. I haven't thought about it for a while, but I don't think I do. It feels
Mm,
uncomfortable. I
yeah.
think, and I guess it's a difficult conversation because we're talking about time here to get to that point, you know. And like I said, with me, I had therapy and I went traveling for a year and a half. But I think it happened sooner than that. But I think it's for you to really sit and unpick what the obstruction is.
Mm,
Why are you not charging what you think you're worth? Um,
mm.
because there's an underlying issue. It's not just what they say, and I don't know what excuses have you heard?
Yeah, I think people feel, again, going back to the black community, we feel like the stuff that we provide is of less value than other races, and it's that's an internal thing that no one
Mhm.
else is telling us that what we're providing isn't good enough. We're telling ourselves that. I know a lot of sometimes it's only a few, but we've had a few bad experiences with, especially with our own people, that we tend to paint everyone with the same paintbrush. And I learned that that's not really the case because I've also had a lot of people that are from the African Caribbean community that will pay
Yep.
a lot for what I do.
Yeah, totally. And I think that comes down to the people you have around you. If you
Oh, that's
have around
key.
me, yeah, big time. As soon as I started to change the people I had around me, I was different.
Wow.
If I, some people are family and I can't get rid of them, unfortunately. If I kept them close enough to influence me, I would still be where I was say 10 years ago, not having acquired a property, not having my own business, not except, I could continue. But I've had to quiet that. And sometimes it's hard because sometimes it's your own mum, it's your best friend that you grew up with,
Ooh.
So sometimes sometimes it's close people, and it's a big shift, when you're trying to change your life and define and create your own life in a new way to what you had before. It's not only the amount of money you charge that needs to change, it's your whole life needs to change. If you want to be this new person, there's so many areas you need to change to become that new person. So it's about being around people that speak that same language that you're trying to speak, ever so delicately,
Yeah.
to say it confidently and loud and hold your chest high. Yeah, this is what I'm charging. Oh, you can't afford it. All right, that's fine. See you later. We're still friends.
Exactly.
That's okay.
Exactly. And the mistake that we make is that we're targeting our friends and family who expect to have a discount.
And I can't remember again. Me and phrases is not the best, but something about your customers aren't your friends. Your customers are the people who are going to buy your product, who you see. It's not your friends. Your friends are your friends. They don't have to support you in that way by spending money on your product. I don't believe in that at all. And especially, and I want to tread carefully, kind of going back to what I said earlier, but your friends are likely to have been there with you for longer than this new person that you're trying to be. So they also know you as the person you were the other day. And if you're still coming into that person, it's going to be harder for them to believe you as this new person and pay you what you say you're worth. That's a bit of a mouthful, but hopefully
Yeah, I understand.
it's been received.
Yeah, it makes sense. And the version of you that you think you are doesn't exist. So what people are seeing, their perception of you is completely different to the perception that you have of yourself.
Yeah.
So that there's all these different versions of you. So you can't just say, oh, this is how I am. So when you want to change, I think that's why people get a bit uncomfortable when you're trying to change and you're like, I'm trying to do better or be better, especially financially as well. It's like, oh, I'm going to get a credit card for my business. And people are like, oh, why are you getting a credit card? And that's because they have a perception of you that it's like, you're going to screw up your finances.
Yeah.
But your perception of yourself needs to change, and that's what you need to rely on, because especially when it comes to your finances, if you keep saying like, oh, I can't pay off my credit card, or I can't get, reach my financial goals in my business or personally, you're not going to reach those goals because you're seeing yourself as this version of yourself that doesn't achieve much. But this mindset is super important in everything that you do, especially financially. That kind of, when people, it's quite cheesy when I hear millionaire mindset, but like I agree with it, because it's just like, you know what? I'm going to buy this thing, not just because I deserve it, but I have the plans. I know that I'm making the money to buy it. So why can't I buy it?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? As long as you have a plan, don't just be popping champagne in the club for everybody,
Well, I see it as you are what you say you can do what you say you can do.
That's it.
If you're telling yourself that you can't do it, you won't do it. If you're telling yourself as an intelligent person, because you can be intelligent and still tell yourself that you can't charge that high salary, sure, that high amount. But if you're telling yourself that you're not good enough for something, or you can't achieve or attain something, then your brain and you are just going to act out what you think is true.
Yeah.
Like, why would it wouldn't make sense for your natural, pure brain to act out and do something that is against what you believe you can do. So the same works on the flip side. If you believe and truly believe that actually you can do it and you can get there, whether it's a financial goal, whether it's a business goal, whether it's a new version of you who can now do public speaking, whatever it may be, you have to believe it first, and then you will just fall in line. And I say that 100% from experience as well. Like with so many different areas of my life, as soon as I started to decide, actually, I'm going to be that person. I'm not right now. I'm shaking in my boots. My voice is trembling. But that's what I'm going to be. And then I just went for it. And then it unfolds and you get there.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Oh my gosh, we're almost at the end. There's one thing I wanted to ask though. There's this picture of you with Spike Lee.
Yeah.
What was that about, please?
So that was my trip, my traveling around the world. I was in Thailand for 3 months. which was just amazing.
Mm.
Spike was filming his film The Five Bloods in Vietnam
Right.
and Chiang Mai, Thailand. And there's a bit of a black community in Chiang Mai, led
Oh
by some
wow.
guy, yeah, a little one, led by some guy who's from Chicago. It's great. It's a lovely community, very music, very creative base. They have like stand-ups, comedy, singing, all that stuff. It's wonderful.
Wow.
Um, and I think the guy who heads up that little community he had links with Spike from before, so they hooked up. And I think Spike kind of just put in a black scene because there were black people in Chiang Mai. So we auditioned. There were 3 auditions, and I got through. And
Hey.
so I was part of the film. So if you squint at the end, you'll see me.
Oh wow. I'm gonna go check it out. Just be like, do I see
Yeah,
Krystle?
I've got like a little
There she
blink.
is. There she is. She was on my
Listen, don't blink.
podcast.
That's
Freeze
my
frame.
Yeah, so that night was the first night of him saying to this guy Binky, like, get everyone down. We'll hold like a kind of opening party of, hey, I'm here. Hey, this is what I'm about. And everyone got a chance to kind of get their headshot done and take a picture with him. And yeah, that was
Oh,
before the filming.
that's cool. And it's just like which I'm gonna use that as a segue actually. What's like in terms of like your acting and your other like artistic side, what's happening with that? Do you have any plans for that?
So the acting stuff, the most I've done is done the odd short course here and there, like Anna Shear's done a few of that. I'm
Mhm.
starting another one, maybe in a month or so, another Sunday kind of acting course. I'm trying to get onto the ones where there's a little show at the end. I'd love to put on a show or do something. I'm terrified because I've not done an acting course for a good few years now. Um, and it'll be the whole imposter thing again. And I'd
Right.
love to do acting. I would, if I'm honest, and I've never said that publicly, so damn it.
Oh.
I say to friends and family, but to say it out, no, I haven't.
How does it feel to say it out?
My stomach was like, woo! I'd love to, but the last time I was really into it was that I was 16, and that's the last
Mhm.
time in that way. But you never know. I mean, I'm doing so many things right now that possibly.
Mm.
And on the drawing side, I'm hearing so many people say every piece is getting so much better.
Wow.
I'm spending more time. Like my pieces take about 6 to 10 hours each to do. And I'm getting more patient with the detail, the little hairs on the face, all that good stuff. And I think I want to share it. Like I've got my Instagram page, which I put them on, but I
Mhm.
think I want to maybe sell them. Why not? I'd like to
Why
have a little
not?
be in people's houses. Not even for necessarily a big financial thing. If it blows up, sure. But for now, yeah, let's get out there.
Yeah. That's it. You decide what you want and then you go for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Into
do it.
that. Awesome. And so what's next? What's next for your for you in terms of like your brand and your coaching and all that kind of stuff? Any interesting stuff you're working on? And
Yes. So the main thing, which I think going forward will take up the majority of my time until I'm able to fully recruit everybody that I need so I can step back, is the finance education app. So my BFD. I don't know if you saw it on my website.
I have not seen it. Tell us a bit more about it.
So I haven't. So there's a website, there's a LinkedIn, but not on Instagram or anything because it's B2B. So
Right.
it's a finance education app which literally teaches the user via videos, tests, activities, and it's rigged with rewards. So as you progress through the course, you get discount vouchers, you get free food, you get cinema tickets, all this great stuff. Yeah, a bit like in my head, I'm thinking Vitality. So
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so you get rewards for doing steps. I've got my watch.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so with that, the initial focus is B2B. So we sell it to companies who want their customers to use it. So think social housing. Their tenants
Ah.
will use the app,
Okay.
but then obviously they get free food and stuff. So it's like, yeah, use it. Why not? But for the client, for example, social housing, there's a massive issue with rent arrears.
Mm.
So obviously educating people how to better manage their money means they're more likely to pay their bills, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So that app is literally about to be launched, which is very exciting, which will see me being
Wow.
ridiculously busy. But it's exactly what I want to do. Like I'm getting education out to people for free, which on a big scale, hopefully.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
the
that is
main
awesome.
Thank you. That's the main thing. And on my coaching and the consultancy, I mean, I'm still doing that on the side, but because I know I'm going to be so engrossed in this business, which I guess is a tech business, really, right?
Yeah.
Which I haven't quite embraced yet. Like, what? Um, so I'm trying to create a course, just basically transfer my coaching into a course, obviously much cheaper because it's automated. So people can still get the information they need, and if they want, they can still book in a session with me to get support.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my main things, I think. And like I
That's
said,
really interesting.
there's some new
Carry
stuff.
on.
There's some stuff that's going to be launched soon. I mentioned one to you earlier, which people will see hopefully in the next week. And then there's another bigger thing, which I can't even say to you yet, which will be launched in about 2 weeks. A really great partnership, really exciting. Yeah, so hopefully just more of that stuff.
Wow.
Oh, and I'm doing a master's in September.
Whoa, you busy.
Science. I am busy.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That's really inspiring stuff. Especially like the tech side of things is like
Yeah.
really cool because do you consider yourself like a techie person at all or?
I mean, I'm smart enough to know how to figure something out. Like I could use various platforms, but coding stuff, no. Um, no, and maybe I should invest a bit of time to do a mini course or something.
But it
Um,
hasn't stopped you.
well, I mean, no, and actually, if I think I studied mathematics at university, and we had a logic module. We had crypto, what's it called? I can't even remember the word. Crypto. Anyway, um, so I've done some of that stuff at university. So it's not totally foreign to me, but
Yeah.
I've not been in it for a long time. So
Okay. Awesome. We're gonna move on to just one last little short
sure.
segment, which is called the tip of the day.
Okay.
So it's a tip that you can give to anybody that's listening in order to help them pursue their passion. It might be advice, it might be a learning resource, it might be a video, it might just be anything. Well, as long as it helps that person. I'll go first. I'll give you some time to think about it.
Okay, great.
I'll go first. It's a I think have I ever mentioned this before? I have like this is episode 59, and I feel like I have made so many suggestions I've lost track of what I've already suggested before. But this might be a reminder. There's something called and co. And it's a kind of invoicing app.
Okay.
Yeah. There's different invoices apps. There's like FreshBooks and stuff like that. But I use and co because it's primarily targeted at designers.
Okay.
Yeah. And what it does is it's made, I wish they were paying me for this one day.
Right.
Basically it's made for people that are like that have creative services, and it has things like contracts in there. It has time tracking and all that kind of stuff, the kind of things that you would use if you were like a designer or something like that. And it just keeps everything on one account for you, and it has templates for sending the invoice over. You can do recurring invoices, subscriptions as well, those kind of things, and it's very easy to use. So it's called And Co. The website is and.co. There's a free version, and then they have like paid subscriptions. But yeah, it's pretty good, especially if you don't want to think about contracts and terms and conditions as as a designer. It's really saved me a lot of times. Because I just send one email and it's sorted.
So
Yeah,
that sounds good. It sounds perfect.
yeah, it's good, and it's worth the money, and it's cheap.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, you've given the accounting software. I think, as I mentioned earlier, one would be to do your cash flow.
Mm.
Everyone can do it. Everyone. And it's similar to a personal budget or a financial plan, but it's for just purely about the cash movement. And just look at it and see what it looks like. If you find yourself that you're every now and then dipping into debt or having to borrow money or use a credit card, that can be really telling and help you. And then I think the other point I think would be, a lot of people are afraid of their finances and aren't paying attention, aren't looking, hiding from them. If you're afraid, I think you should reach out to somebody, a finance person who can just have a chat with you, even if it's a preliminary chat, and just provide some quick tips some guidance. I think when I speak to people who are at that stage, a lot of what I talk about is the fact that everyone thinks they don't know anything about finance, and it's like, oh, I'm stupid, I don't know anything, and no one actually does. It's and it's not actually about, you know, numbers or, you know, anything like that. It's actually just about you being a bit creative with how you set things up.
Yeah.
So when I work with people, it's less so, hey, we're going to go and crack some numbers, and it's hardly that. It's more just planning, thinking about what you want to do, you know, and the little steps you can take. Yeah.
Brilliant. Awesome. How can we contact you? How can the listeners get in touch with you? And is there anything that you wanted to plug as well? Like something that they should check out and all of that?
Unfortunately, I can't plug those things just yet. But getting in touch with me, yeah, like whether it's direct on email, krystle@krystlemcgilvery.com. You know, my website, krystlemcgilvery.com. You know, you can contact me there, whether it's for a one-off session or a quick chat. Like I said, I'm launching the course and I'm keeping it really cheap just because I really want to get it out to people. And if they need the extra support, I'm available. Yeah, and hopefully launching my YouTube and podcast.
I was giving Krystle a lot of like, I was just pushing her to get her podcast sorted. Join us.
I think I've got like four maybe episodes. Oh, it's a lot of work. So hats off to you, seriously.
Look, if it makes you more comfortable, I recorded my first episode on my mobile phone.
I did too on Anchor.
I didn't even use Anchor. I just put my phone on the table and saved the file and emailed it to myself.
Oh wow! I mean, you started. That's the main thing.
But Anchor is very good. Anchor is actually pretty good. So
yeah. I'll do it.
I'll be on your case now. Thanks so much for coming on to this. Like, it has been really, really insightful. I'm so glad you came on because you touched on things that, you know, you didn't just talk about finance. You talked to it was almost spiritual. You see what I mean? It was very like deep. It's about the deep work, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you came on. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, use the hashtag Unstuck podcast if you have any questions for Krystle or if you have any questions for me. Krystle's, all her details will be in the description of this episode, and make sure you subscribe and rate and drop a comment, say something nice, and share it with people as well. If it helped you, let it help other people. Thanks for coming, Krystle. And that's it. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.